Grand Marshal Vextar of the Arxian Empire stood before the holographic display, his iridescent scales reflecting the soft blue light of countless stars. The tactical overlay highlighted a seemingly insignificant solar system at the edge of the Orion Arm. Earth, the latest addition to their catalog of conquest. Primitive, he muttered, his secondary breathing chambers releasing a contemptuous hiss. The holographic display showed Earth's defensive capabilities. A scattered network of satellites, a handful of space stations, and what appeared to be chemical-propelled vessels barely capable of reaching their own moon. Commander Ixel, his chief intelligence officer, manipulated the display with practiced gestures of her four-fingered hands. They achieved spaceflight only 70 years ago, Marshal. Their most advanced weapons still rely on nuclear fission. Our preliminary analysis suggests they would qualify as a Category 1 civilization. Category 1. The designation brought a ripple of amusement across Vextar's scales. In the Empire's 3,000 years of expansion, they had never encountered a Category 1 civilization that lasted more than 3 days against their might. The Arxians had mastered quantum manipulation, gravity control, and faster-than-light travel before most species learned to harness electricity. Their population, Vextar asked, more out of protocol than interest. 8 billion, concentrated in urban centers. Their military forces are divided among nearly 200 sovereign territories. Ixel's voice carried the same dismissive tone. They spend more resources fighting among themselves than preparing for external threats. Vextar expanded the holographic display, studying Earth's orbital defenses. The humans had constructed a crude network of early warning satellites and what they called kinetic defense platforms. The Marshal had seen more sophisticated security systems in civilian mining operations. Prepare the first wave, he commanded. Standard conquest protocol. No need for the full fleet. He paused, considering. Send the 47th Legion. They could use the practice. The 47th was composed primarily of fresh graduates from the Imperial War Academy. Under normal circumstances, using such inexperienced troops would be reckless. But against a Category 1 civilization, it would be good training. As his officers began preparations, Vextar received an unexpected alert from the deep space sensors. A small human vessel had been detected at the edge of the solar system, near what they called the Kuiper Belt. Its energy signature was barely above background radiation. Shall we eliminate it? Ixel asked, her fingers hovering over the command interface. Vextar waved dismissively. Let them watch. Their primitive sensors won't detect our main fleet anyway. Perhaps seeing our arrival will convince their leaders to surrender immediately. The human vessel made no attempt to move or communicate. It simply drifted, seemingly powered down, like a piece of space debris. Vextar dismissed it from his thoughts as he focused on the invasion plans. 3 days later, the 47th Legion dropped out of quantum space in perfect formation. 500 warships arranged in the traditional Arxian attack pattern, their quantum drives creating a spectacular light show that would be visible from Earth's surface. Vextar had chosen to command this operation personally, if only to log another easy victory in his already impressive record. The small human vessel they detected earlier was gone. Probably retreated to warn their leaders, Vextar thought with satisfaction. Good. Let them tremble. Marshal, Ixel's voice carried an odd note. I'm detecting unusual gravitational fluctuations throughout the system. Before Vextar could respond, space itself seemed to ripple. Where moments ago there had been empty void, dozens of massive vessels suddenly appeared. They seemed to phase into existence like ghosts becoming solid, their hulls covered in patterns that bent light in impossible ways. The largest of these ships dwarfed even the Arxian command carrier. Its surface seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, and its energy signature. Vextar's primary heart nearly stopped. The readings were off the scale. Attention Arxian fleet. A calm human voice transmitted on all frequencies. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force Ghost Fleet. You are in violation of sovereign human space. You have one chance to retreat. Vextar's scales paled as his tactical display updated. The human ships weren't just large. They were technological marvels. Their hull composition wasn't even registering on his sensors, and their weapon systems. How had they hidden this? How had they developed this? Impossible, he breathed. They're Category 1. We saw their defensive grid. Their primitive satellites. About those satellites, Admiral Chen's voice carried a hint of amusement. Did you really think a species that spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare would leave their real defenses in plain sight? The human ships began to move, their formations flowing like water, creating geometric patterns that seemed to bend the fabric of space itself. And in that moment, Grand Marshal Vextar realized he had made a terrible, terrible mistake. The real question was, would he live long enough to learn from it? The bridge of the EDF Hyperion hummed with barely contained energy as Admiral Chen studied the Arxian fleet through enhanced quantum imaging. She stood perfectly still, her dark eyes reflecting the holographic display while her neural interface processed combat scenarios at speeds that would have seemed impossible just decades ago. They're maintaining attack formation, Lieutenant Commander Jackson reported, his fingers dancing over the neural interface controls. 500 ships, primarily light cruisers and destroyers. Their weapons are charging, but they haven't fired yet. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Arxians' hesitation was telling. Their sensors would be going haywire trying to analyze the Ghost Fleet's technology. Everything they thought they knew about human capabilities had just been turned upside down. Launch the Whispers, she commanded. Throughout the Ghost Fleet, launch bays shimmered as thousands of autonomous drones emerged. Each was barely larger than a human fighter, but contained more computing power than entire planetary networks. The Whispers moved like schools of fish, their quantum-entangled processors allowing them to act as a single organism. On the Arxian command carrier, Grand Marshal Vextar watched in growing alarm as his tactical display tried to make sense of the human drones. Their movement patterns defied conventional physics, seeming to exist in multiple places simultaneously. Impossible, he muttered. Their technology level. We monitored them for years. They were launching chemical rockets, using radio waves for communication. How could they hide this level of advancement? Marshal, Commander Ixel's voice was tight with tension. The human drones are generating some kind of quantum field. Our targeting systems can't get a lock. Chen's voice came through again, still maddeningly calm. Marshal Vextar, I'm reading quantum weapon signatures from your fleet. I should warn you, firing on a Ghost Fleet vessel would be unfortunate. Vextar's scales rippled with anger and fear. The human's tone wasn't threatening. It was almost sympathetic, which somehow made it worse. But he hadn't risen to Grand Marshal by backing down. All ships, open fire, he commanded. The space between the fleets lit up as 500 Arxian vessels unleashed their quantum weaponry. Beams of concentrated energy that could tear apart the fabric of space-time lanced toward the human ships. What happened next defied explanation. The Ghost Fleet didn't move to evade. The Whisper drones didn't attempt to intercept. Instead, the geometric patterns flowing across the human ships' hulls began to pulse with an inner light. The quantum beams struck and simply ceased to exist. Fascinating. Chen mused, watching the energy readings. Your weapons are actually more efficient than our simulations predicted. We'll have to update our models. On the Arxian command carrier, alarms were blaring. Marshal, Ixel's voice cracked with disbelief. The human vessels. They're not just absorbing our weapons fire. They're using it to power themselves. The geometric patterns on the Ghost Fleet ships were glowing brighter now, pulsing with the stolen energy of the Arxian attack. The Whisper drones had arranged themselves into complex three-dimensional formations that seemed to fold space itself into impossible shapes. Perhaps I should explain, Chen offered. Humanity never stopped advancing. We simply learned long ago that the best defense is to let your enemies underestimate you. Those primitive satellites you detected, Quantum computers disguised as simple early warning systems. Those chemical rockets. Test platforms for our gravity manipulation technology. We've been watching, learning, and preparing. She paused, and when she spoke again, there was a hint of steel beneath her calm exterior. We could have revealed ourselves at any time. Could have joined the galactic community as equals. But we saw how your empire treats equals. So we waited, developed our technology in secret, and let you think we were primitive. And now, the Whisper drones suddenly moved as one, their quantum fields intersecting in ways that made space itself shudder. Around the Arxian fleet, reality began to warp. Now, Chen continued, you get to learn why humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our patience. Vextar watched in horror as his ships began to lose coherence, their quantum drives disrupted by fields he couldn't even begin to understand. In that moment, he realized that the Arxian Empire hadn't discovered Earth. Earth had allowed itself to be discovered. And now, they would all learn the price of their arrogance. Grand Marshal Vextar had never felt fear in battle before. 3 centuries of military service, countless conquests, and not once had his primary heart raced with the cold certainty of doom. Until now. Marshal, we've lost contact with the entire third quadrant, Ixel reported, her usual composure cracking. The human drones. They're not just disrupting our quantum drives. They're rewriting local space-time. Around the Arxian fleet, reality itself seemed to be folding. The Whisper drones had created a complex geometric web, their quantum fields intersecting in patterns that defied conventional physics. Ships that tried to retreat found themselves moving in impossible loops, their advanced navigation systems unable to make sense of space that no longer followed normal rules. On the Hyperion, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with the patience of a chess master. Fascinating how perspective changes everything. She mused aloud. Your empire saw our divided nations and thought us weak. You never considered that managing 200 sovereign territories requires more diplomatic and strategic skill than ruling through force. The Whisper drones shifted their formation again, and another segment of the Arxian fleet found itself trapped in a pocket of warped space-time. The ships weren't being destroyed. They were being contained, like insects in amber. Lieutenant Commander Jackson, Chen called out. Initiate Phase 2. Jackson's neural interface pulsed as he connected with the Ghost Fleet's quantum network. Phase 2 initiated, Admiral. Deploying the mirrors. From the largest Ghost Fleet vessels, new entities emerge. Unlike the Whisper drones, these constructs were barely visible to the naked eye. Clouds of quantum-entangled particles that the humans called mirrors. They flowed through space like living fog, passing through the Arxian ship shields as if they didn't exist. What are they doing? Vextar demanded as the strange mist enveloped his ships. Our weapons have no effect. Learning, Chen replied simply. The mirrors are quantum-scale observation systems. Right now, they're analyzing every aspect of your technology, from your quantum drives to the genetic modifications that give your species its enhanced capabilities. Vextar's scales paled as he understood the implications. You're stealing our technological secrets. A soft chuckle came through the comm. Stealing implies taking something away. We're simply appreciating your innovations. After all, isn't that what your empire does? Absorbs the achievements of others and claims them as your own. The difference, Vextar realized with growing horror, was that the empire usually had to destroy civilizations to take their technology. These humans were doing it while leaving their ships intact. Marshal. Ixel's voice rose in panic. The mirrors, they're not just analyzing our technology. They're improving it. Our quantum drives are being rewritten at the atomic level. Chen's voice carried a note of pride. Humanity's greatest achievement isn't our technology, Marshal. It's our ability to adapt, to take ideas, and make them better. Your empire conquers. We evolve. The geometric patterns across the Ghost Fleet ships began to pulse with new energy as the mirrors transmitted their findings. Each piece of Arxian technology they analyzed was immediately understood, improved, and incorporated into the humans' already formidable systems. You should feel honored, Chen continued. Your empire's technology will serve as the foundation for our next phase of advancement, though I suspect we'll find more elegant solutions than you did. Vextar watched helplessly as his mighty fleet hung suspended in quantum webs, their most advanced technology being casually dissected and improved upon by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive hours ago. "What are you?" he whispered. "We are humanity," Chen replied, and for the first time, there was steel in her voice. "We are the species that turned our divisions into strength, that made an art form of adaptation, that learned to hide our light not out of fear, but strategy." The mirrors completed their analysis, returning to their host ships like mercury flowing uphill. The geometric patterns on the Ghost Fleet vessels had changed, incorporating new elements that Vextar recognized from his own ships, but altered, improved, perfected. "And now," Chen concluded, "we are the species that will teach your empire a long-overdue lesson about the price of arrogance." The whispered drones began to move again, their formations shifting into new configurations that made Vextar's tactical computers streak in protest. Whatever was coming, he realized, the earlier demonstration had been merely a prelude. The real battle was about to begin. The void between worlds erupted with impossible light as the Ghost Fleet began its counterstrike. The geometric patterns flowing across their hulls had transformed, now incorporating elements of Arxian design, but twisted into configurations that defied conventional physics. "You know what fascinates me about your empire, Marshal." Admiral Chen's voice carried through the chaos as the whisper drones began their new dance. "You achieved quantum manipulation through brute force. You bent space-time to your will without ever truly understanding it." On his command carrier, Vextar watched in mounting dread as the human ships began to move in ways that shouldn't be possible. They weren't just phasing through space, they were moving through multiple dimensions simultaneously, existing in several places at once. "Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Jackson reported, his neural interface pulsing with data, "the mirrors have completed their integration. The fleet is ready." Chen nodded, her dark eyes reflecting the quantum display. "Begin the demonstration." The whisper drones suddenly collapsed their quantum web, releasing the trapped Arxian ships. For a moment, Vextar felt a surge of hope, until he realized what was happening. The drones hadn't retreated. They had transformed into something else entirely. "Incredible," Ixel whispered, watching her displays. "They've created some kind of quantum resonance cascade. The drones aren't just individual units anymore. They're a single quantum field." The space around the Arxian fleet began to shimmer as thousands of quantum fields intersected. But unlike the brutal force of Arxian quantum weapons, these fields moved with an almost organic grace, flowing like water around the Imperial ships. "Your empire's greatest weakness," Chen continued, "is your belief that power comes from domination. You never learned that true strength lies in understanding, in working with the fundamental forces of the universe rather than against them." The Ghost Fleet ships began to move in perfect synchronization with their transformed drone fields. Where Arxian ships fought against space-time, forcing it to bend to their will, the human vessels seemed to dance with it, their movements following the natural flow of quantum currents that Vextar hadn't even known existed. "Marshal," Ixel's voice cracked with alarm. "They're not attacking our ships directly. They're altering the quantum signature of space itself. Our weapons, our drives, they're becoming part of their network." Chen's voice carried a note of satisfaction. "Did you really think we spent centuries divided into nations because we couldn't unite? Those divisions forced us to learn, to adapt, to find ways to work together without losing our individual strengths. Now we're applying that same principle to the quantum level." The transformed whisper drones had created a new kind of space around the Arxian fleet, one where their advanced technology no longer held dominion. Every quantum weapon they fired, every attempt to engage their drives, only served to strengthen the humans' control. "You face a choice, Marshal," Chen announced. "You can continue this battle, and we will systematically dismantle every advantage your empire has ever relied upon. Or you can stand down and perhaps learn something about true power." Vextar watched as his mighty fleet hung helpless in space, their most advanced technology turned into nothing more than an extension of human will. In 3 centuries of warfare, he had never encountered anything like this. "How?" he demanded. "How did you achieve this level of quantum manipulation?" "We didn't try to control it," Chen replied simply. "We learned to listen to it. Your empire sees the universe as something to be conquered. We saw it as something to be understood." The geometric patterns across the Ghost Fleet ships pulsed one final time, and Vextar felt his command carrier's quantum core begin to resonate with them. Not being destroyed or overwritten, but being invited into a vast network of interconnected fields that made his empire's technology seem crude by comparison. "Your weapons are now linked to our network," Chen explained. "If you fire them, you'll only be adding to our strength. If you try to flee, you'll find your quantum drives will only take you where we allow." She paused, and when she spoke again, there was something like pity in her voice. "The question isn't whether you'll surrender, Marshal. The question is how much of your fleet's technology you'll give to us before you make the inevitable decision." And in that moment, facing the combined might of humanity's true capabilities, Grand Marshal Vextar of the mighty Arxian Empire did something he had never done before. He admitted defeat. 6 months after the Battle of Seoul, the great halls of the Arxian High Command hosted an unprecedented gathering. Grand Marshal Vextar, his scales now bearing the subtle gray markings of one who had survived a profound transformation, stood before the assembled leaders of both the Empire and the human delegation. "The war that never was," he began, his voice carrying through the vast chamber, "changed everything we thought we knew about civilization's natural progression. We assumed technological advancement followed a linear path. We were wrong." Admiral Chen, standing at the speaker's podium beside him, nodded in agreement. The geometric patterns on her dress uniform shifted subtly, a reminder of the technology that had reshaped the balance of power in known space. Humanity's path was different, she explained to the assembled dignitaries. "We didn't climb the technological ladder, we danced with it. Each step sideways taught us as much as each step forward." The holographic displays activated, showing the new reality of human-Arxian cooperation. Where once the Empire had sought to conquer Earth, now they were partners in an unprecedented exchange of knowledge and culture. "Our greatest discovery," Chen continued, "wasn't quantum manipulation or dimensional engineering. It was understanding that true power comes from diversity of thought. Every human nation, every competing ideology, every conflicting viewpoint, they all contributed to our eventual breakthrough." Vextar watched the reactions among his people. 6 months ago, they would have dismissed such words as weakness. Now, having witnessed the true extent of human capabilities, they listened with rapt attention. "The mirrors we encountered," he added, addressing his own people directly, "didn't just analyze our technology. They showed us possibilities we had never imagined. Humanity didn't defeat us. They evolved us." The display shifted to show the first joint human-Arxian research facility, where Imperial scientists at once forced quantum particles to obey their will. They now worked alongside human colleagues to understand the natural flow of space-time itself. The results had already revolutionized everything from space travel to energy production. "But perhaps the most remarkable aspect," Chen observed, "is what happened after the surrender. Your empire expected subjugation, demands for reparations, or at least technological restrictions. Instead, we offered partnership." The assembled leaders murmured in agreement. The humans had done something unprecedented in galactic history. They had turned a potential conquest into a genuine alliance. "Because that's what humanity does," she continued. "We don't seek to dominate. We seek to understand, to adapt, and to grow. And now, we invite others to grow with us." Vextar felt his scales shift in a pattern of deep acknowledgement. The Empire spent millennia believing that strength came from uniformity, from imposing our will upon the galaxy. The humans proved that true power lies in diversity, in the ability to see through multiple perspectives simultaneously. The holographic display showed the latest breakthrough, a fusion of human quantum manipulation and Archean genetic engineering that promised to revolutionize both civilizations. It was just one of countless collaborations born from their new partnership. The galaxy stands at a crossroads, Chen declared. The old way of conquest and domination has met its match in humanity's philosophy of adaptation and understanding. But we offer more than just a stalemate. We offer a new path forward. She gestured, and the display showed the modified designs of the Ghost Fleet ships, now incorporating the best elements of both civilizations' technology. But unlike the Empire's forced standardization, each vessel was unique, adapted to its specific role and crew. The question facing us now, Vextar concluded, is not whether to change, but how quickly we can adapt to this new reality. Humanity has shown us that the universe is far more complex and far more wonderful than we ever imagined. As the assembly erupted in discussion, Admiral Chen shared a knowing look with the Grand Marshal. The Battle of Sol had lasted less than a day, but its implications would reshape galactic civilization for millennia to come. In the end, humanity's greatest victory hadn't been defeating the Archean Empire. It had been showing them, and the galaxy, that there was a better way. A way that didn't require conquest or submission, but understanding and cooperation. And as the geometric patterns on the Ghost Fleet ships continued their endless dance through space, they served as a reminder that the greatest power in the universe wasn't the ability to bend reality to your will. It was the wisdom to listen to reality's own song, and the courage to dance with it rather than against it.